Hi guys, Brand here, and welcome to another commentary video. Today we're going to be talking about the recent anniversary event that just went by. Now that we are in the aftermath, it has been long concluded at this point. It was definitely an event, now wasn't it? A lot of stuff went down, and a lot of people had a lot of feelings about it, and I just kind of wanted to talk about, now that the dust is settled, all of the complicated bits that came with that recent event. And yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about it. So infamously, back in Dead by Daylight's previous history of events, people get pretty bored pretty quickly when it comes to events that really don't have a lot to actively do. A lot of previous Dead by Daylight events were very, very simple, very, very rudimentary, where they would just, I grab this thing and then I go deposit it somewhere else, and then that's it. That's all. But for both Killer and Survivor, it was just, I pick up thing, I take it over here, I deposit it, thing happens. Like it was stuff that was like that simple. And in a lot of instances as well, there wasn't even really like event mechanics with a lot of these events. It was kind of just like a themed decoration for a little bit and some extra blood points, maybe an offering, but it was just hook them on the party hooks, which are just slightly decorated hooks. There's really no actual gameplay difference, or do the party gens, which are like, once again, the exact same as normal gens. They just look a little different. So in Dead by Daylight's history, most events have been kind of uninteractive. It's been basically the same thing, if not minor differences here or there. But with the anniversary events, the Masquerade events, this and last year, they've been doing a lot of very, very dynamic changes, and this extended to other smaller events such as the Halloween event and the Blood Moon event, where we actually get to have abilities with varying degrees of value that we are actually able to enact on the game. Obviously, the two big ones being from this most recent event being the remote hook and the quiet mode. Now, initially, the idea that we were going to be doing more and have more active influence on the game and have different gameplay made the event very, very appealing and very, very lovely. And I liked that a lot, and most people liked that a lot, especially when it came to last year's. But even there were some people last year who kind of had there's some quiet talk going around that like, hey, people are already trying to optimize the use out of these event abilities instead of just leaving it up to being a party mode, especially considering this year it was a separate queue, the party version of the game, and leaving it to be all fun and games. But people are actually optimizing this for their own success, and it's starting to get a little sweaty, a little uncomfortable in here. But by and large, that went, under the radar, and we made it to this year where it kind of came to full fruition, where both the remote hook and the quiet mode were used to maximum efficiency. And after a while, the Masquerade mode, the separate queue, actually kind of became the sweaty game mode. And if you wanted normal games, you'd go play the normal game mode. People took these extra abilities that were supposed to be used in the sake of fun and partying. They essentially started making the quiet mode or the remote hook into their 5th or 6th perk and decided to play the game as intensely as possible using these extra new perk abilities that have been granted to them. This on the surface is already like really silly, because the whole point of having a separate queue here this year was that we could have more casual games and you could go play the fun mode instead of having to, do the event items and challenges under the duress of normal games of Dead by Daylight. Because normal games of Dead by Daylight, as you have found out if you play this game a lot, are either to some extent very, very easy, very, very they're very like easy breezy. Like you'll be playing Killer, somebody will give up on hook on first hook, and then you get your challenge really easily. But other times you'll get that 4-man sweat squad, all meta perks, BNPs and all that wonderful stuff, and you barely have time to even do your event challenge. So trying to do those under the stress of a normal queue was pretty annoying sometimes. But almost the reverse happened when they made the extra queue that was supposed to be, hey, this is a safe place to do your challenges. That is the non-serious version of this game. It became more serious because of the way they treated those event powers. And some of the challenges thankfully could be done in the normal mode, because it was just hook somebody on an anniversary hook, because the decorations are in both versions of the mode. But some were event specific, like be under the effect of Trix's abilities, because those only apply their effect during the event queue. So initially I made a video very, very early on talking about how it's okay if things are unbalanced and unfun in the event mode, because it's supposed to be unbalanced. Things are supposed to be kind of out there, wacky, zany. It's not supposed to be the standard fair mode of Dead by Daylight. You still have the normal queue for that. But when there's challenges that are event specific that you have to go in and do, well, it can be said that only like 1 or 2. It's not a lot that you have to do in the game mode only per level of the tome, especially after 3 weeks having to constantly go back into this very intense landscape. Can be very, very exhausting. So you may be asking, where am I going with this? What's the whole point of this? Why are we just yapping back and forth about nothing in particular? I think that while we initially were very disheartened and let down by the lack of activity that were in previous Dead by Daylight events, I think to some extent we took for granted the fact that these abilities were not able to be used for meta purposes, like having somebody just remote hook and just completely deny any sort of sabo or even flashlight save in a lot of instances, because you'd have that bug where you would just like teleport to the hook yourself, or with quiet mode where you would be having a quick and efficient chase and suddenly somebody just vanishes because they're just suddenly just absolutely quiet and suddenly all your audio tracking you had was just gone. Like that stuff, we kind of learned the hard way that stuff can be definitely used for people that want to play this game even harder to their advantage, which is something that we got to be very much careful about. So I think a marriage of the two ideas would probably be the most ideal for future events of Dead by Daylight. That being that we have more active activity, more things that we can do that affects gameplay, that gives us different stuff to do, but be careful about how these things could be used in a very, very like meta sort of intention. Well, that being said, I do like a lot of the stuff that came through during the event. I think remote hook could be fun as a perk slot, though it's not just something that we have just naturally as a 5th perk, something maybe like along the lines of coup de grace, where like as gens get completed, you get a remote hook per one, maybe something like that. But I think that in general, we learned the hard way that people will use these things to their advantage to make the games even more unfun. So perhaps we should tread lightly when introducing things like that in the future, because oh boy, the games were not great. I know there's a lot of people that are like, my games were fun on the event. I'm like, good for you. Good for you. I'm glad. This conversation does not affect you then. I'm glad you had a really great time. But a lot of people were definitely feeling the effects of the more intense nature of the event queue. So I feel like being a little bit more measured in our what we put into that would save us a lot of heartache in the future. Yeah, how was your experience on the event? Were you one of those people that agree with me where it's like, wow, that is the sweat queue? Or were you more like the other people that were like, no, actually, it's some pretty good games? Let me know down in the comments below. But that's gonna be it for today's video, friends. Thank you so much for watching. Other than that, I will see you when I see you. Bye-bye.